Welcome to Odds.com's continuing MLB playoff coverage. Game 1 of the World Series is in the books. 8-3 Dodgers win. Kershaw looks spectacular. Home runs by Betts and Bellinger. Just the way you wrote it up, Nolly. How you feeling after Game 1?
Oh, can't be feeling any better than this. Got it. Dodgers pulled it off. 8-3 victory. Hats off to Kershaw. Was able to go deep enough, maybe to silence little haters for at least until his next start. And then and the Dodgers. You got the two MVPs that paid a lot of money to, and they showed it off. Offense, defense. Betts showed it off. Showed off all five tools today, getting the two stolen bases. But Glasnow, I thought he pitched better than his numbers might indicate. He had some filthy stuff moving, had a lot of guys swinging and misses at balls in the dirt. So, I mean, still saw a lot of good things on the other side, but just ultimately too much firepower from the Dodgers, and they look to be hot. Winners are 4 in a row, and I'm hoping they continue it.
Absolutely. And Kershaw looked great. I cashed with Dodgers first 5 minus a half at minus 120. That was available at minus 110. The idea that we had that money was going to come in on the Dodgers was wrong. The Rays, money was coming in on the Rays as a dog. Hit the first 5 over 3.5. We were absolutely right on that. The 4 was there night before. Come game day, it was 3.5. And I got in at minus 120 on the over 3.5. And I'd been very patient. After I bet it, it went up to minus 125. And I was like, oh, good. And then right before first pitch, minus 115. So money coming in on the under. Let's talk about Kershaw for a second. But also that's 5 straight for me in the playoffs. It's been a tough year, so I'm going to enjoy this 5 straight. Hit the Game 6 Atlanta, LA Dodgers first 5 under 4.5. In Game 7, Braves first 5 plus 125. Braves to score first. And then the first 2 bets here in World Series. I'd like to finish the year hot. That would make me feel good. Let's talk about Kershaw. 17 of his final 18 batters he faced, he shut down over 6 innings. Kershaw allowed 2 hits, 1 walk, struck out 8, just a Kiermaier home run. Rays swung at 38 of Kershaw's 78 pitches, whiffed on 19 of them. All 8 of his strikeouts were swing and miss. Last 7 were on sliders. Very, very, very impressive. And still, after only throwing 78 pitches, he didn't start the 7th inning. And, funny enough, I'd like to ask you about this, Nolly. I think that was a mistake by Roberts. I really do. They were way ahead. There was no pressure on them. And I could be very wrong here. And I'd love to hear your idea. But at this point, I would have said, let's see if we can exercise those demons and put him out in the 7th inning and have him be able to get through the 7th inning that's been so horrible to him in his postseason history. What do you think about when Roberts pulled him?
Well, I think all signs were pointing that he was going to come back out for that 7th. You look when he comes out of the 6th, it was a very quick inning. He was able to manage through the inning very quickly, and that's when I thought that they'd be able to pull him back out in the 7th. I mean, me personally, though, I look at those numbers, and I know that ERA, and I know those demons, and I wanted to avoid that. Me personally, I want to write a different story, and let's avoid that. But ultimately, I thought was the length of the last 2 innings. You look, they put up 4 in the 5th, and then they end up putting 2 in the 6th. And ultimately, when the Dodgers scored the 2nd run, that's when you saw they looked into the dugout, and that's when Kershaw took off the wrap on the arm, and he started getting handshakes from his teammates. So I do think they were going to take him, put him back out there in the 7th. They got a little more insurance and decided to just go ahead and rest him.
Yeah, and then they were touched for 2 runs without him. It doesn't matter really what you do. I shouldn't say that, but when you have a big lead like that, you can make mistakes. I thought it was a nice chance for Kershaw to exercise those demons. Let's talk about Glasnow here. Rough situation for Glasnow. 6 earned runs, 8 strikeouts, 6 walks in just 4 1/3. Both pitchers easily cashed their strikeout props. The interesting prop for Glasnow, because they were both at minus 150 when we did our video, by the time first pitch came along, it was at minus 120. So I think the people betting the under on the Glasnow prop were thinking that maybe he gets hit hard and gets knocked out of the game. Let's move on to tonight, or it's tonight right now. Let's move on to Game 2 and talk about the starting pitchers. Here We know that Blake Snell will be pitching for the Rays, and we will break him down. But the big question mark after the game was who is pitching for the Dodgers? Who is pitching for the Dodgers? Can you break down what you've heard as to who is starting?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of question marks here. We know for certain we got Walker Buehler going game 3. And on the other side, we know Blake Snell going for game 2. So that's a big question mark here for the Dodgers. Here, I follow a guy, Ken Gruchik, a beat reporter for the Dodgers, and he put out Tony Gosselin starting for the Dodgers. But I mean, still, albeit he just pitched not too long ago, didn't go deep. So I expect this more of a committee. You see Blake, you'll see him, you'll see Dustin May, and I would still expect to see Urias as well in that mix.
I agree. And I after that was reported, and you let me know that it was reported, a few other spots came out and said that yes, Gonsolin will be starting. All right, let's break down the pitchers. Blake Snell, let's start with him. 4-2, 3.24 ERA, 1.20 WHIP, 50 innings, 63 Ks, 18 walks during the regular season. During the postseason, 2-2, 3.20 ERA, 1.32 WHIP, 19 2/3, 19 Ks, 10 walks. The only difference is the walk rate is being higher in the postseason. In 2020, lefties hit 217 with a 691 OPS off of them, and righties 232 with a 736 OPS off them. Fine numbers, except when you look at Tony Gonsolin's regular season numbers. They were very strong, and I am ready to bet the Rays first 5, going for my 6th straight casher, and it's Gonsolin I'm attacking. And it's funny because when I went over his regular season numbers, I was like, damn, he had a great regular season. 2-2, 2.31 ERA, 0.84 WHIP, 46 2/3, 46 Ks, 7 walks. And lefties hit 179 with a 534 OPS off him. Righties hit 207 with a 501 OPS off him. I mean, he was lights out. Then we come to the postseason, 1-0, 9.95 ERA, 1.74 WHIP, 6 walks and 6 1/3. I mean, he almost had as many walks as he had in 46 2/3 regular season innings. Let's talk about the two pitchers. We'll start with Blake Snell. How do you feel about him in Game 2 of the World Series?
I mean, Blake Snell, guy, I'm really high on. I thought he looked really good going down the stretch in the remaining of the season, the regular season. Finished off the month of September with a 1.26 ERA. Only giving up 5 earned runs in this over 5 starts. I mean, a guy, to me, I thought he looked really good down the stretch. And to me, here in the playoffs, he did get touched up a little bit by the New York Yankees, but he's been able to succeed against everybody else, 2 runs or less against everybody else. And to me, his fastball has been looking really impressive, and that's the pitch he needs to get going. Relies on it heavily, throws it about 50% of the time, and a guy that's shown to have signs of greatness. You saw in 2018 what a year he was able to put together, and to me, that's more so indicative of the stuff that he's throwing right now. To me, he's not getting the results that I typically expect out of him, and I think that he fares well against this Dodger lineup that doesn't seem to hit the lefties quite as much as they hit the righties. So here in this spot, albeit the Dodgers did come alive here today, I do expect Blake Snell to come in here and be able to cool their bats off. I mean, momentum is a big thing in sports, but I think a little less in baseball, specifically when you're sitting here facing a guy like Blake Snell.
Well, let's talk about Blake Snell for a little longer before we move back over to Gonsolin. Blake Snell, after that Yankee start, we did a video. You were talking about how his curveball wasn't working. His curveball wasn't working. And then we saw it work against the Astros. We saw it work. I guess maybe it was also that first start against the Astros. You were saying that the curveball wasn't working. And then it looked good. And he was still pulled after 4 1/3. And then you bring up Dodgers versus lefties. It was such a roller coaster season against lefties. They started the year smashing lefties. Then they went into this big slump against lefties. And then at the end of the year, they were smashing lefties again. And in the postseason, they're destroying lefties. 309, 990 OPS. So let's talk more about Snell and what your expectations are. Do you think he gets hit? Because I am very close to pulling the trigger, although it's not available at my book yet, so I'll probably have to wait till the morning on Ray's first 5. Do you trust this 309, 990 OPS versus lefties for the Dodgers?
See, when I look at Blake Snell and the stuff that you're talking about, I think they just pulled him just because of the familiarity of which Houston has with him. That's a common strategy that Tampa Bay likes to deploy. They don't want their pitchers to be too exposed against guys. So I think that's more so indicative because you look here with Glasnow. Glasnow had over 100 pitches. He was allowed to see the heart of the lineup, which is something I was actually shocked about. But there was not a lot of familiarity with them, so I think that's why they're a little bit more willing to run the risk. As far as for the Dodgers here, the fact they are a team that can hit the fastball pretty good, but the fact that Blake Snell was able to get that curveball over, it was the first start with Houston that he wasn't. He had some issues with the curveball, but he still managed to get out of some tough spots. We talked about his ERA and his batting average against when he faces the guys in scoring position drops down to 1.4 batting average when he's got runners in scoring position. So a pitcher he's poised for the big time. And I mentioned it in the video before, he turned things around after he had a rough start against the Marlins. And since then, he's looked more so what he's capable of doing. Here in the playoffs, it's still tough ask. You're going against a hot Dodger team, but they might be mixing the lineup up a little bit. And albeit as good as they are, I still see like even Mookie's numbers still decrease against the lefty. And to me, this is a special left-handed pitcher. And I believe in Blake Snell, and this is a scary game for the Dodgers, in my opinion.
I agree. Absolutely agree. Snell has faced the Dodgers once in his career. September 2019, Dodger Stadium. He struck out 4, retired all 6 batters he faced in his return from the 10-day IL. Those 6 batters, Mookie Betts, Chris Taylor, Cody Bellinger, Max Muncy, A.J. Pollock, and Enrique Hernandez. Mookie Betts, though, from his days as a Red Sox, has faced him 23 at-bats, 27 plate appearances. In 23 at-bats, he's 7 for 23, 2 doubles, 1 homer, 6 RBIs, hitting .304 with a .522 slugging, giving him an .892 OPS. So he's the only one who has a lot of familiarity with Snell. Let's move over to Gonsolin. Let's move over to Gonsolin. I want to attack him, and that's my plan. And I told you that when I was writing out these numbers and looking at how balanced he was for lefties and righties and how strong he was this year, I think he's in his head, man. He's a young pitcher, and I think he's in his head. And I think I have an advantage first 5 with the Rays. What are your expectations of Gonsolin?
I think you said it right there. I think this is more so a mental thing. I'm not liking his presence at all on the mound, specifically when a couple of runners or even one runner get on base. You see just a lot of nerves up there. Moment maybe a bit too big for him. A guy that he still hasn't been hit all that hard. Only gave up 2 hits against the Atlanta Braves, but timely hits and the walks. The walks are just killing him here. And then when I look at his ground ball rate, significantly down. Didn't get a single ground ball that last time out to 7 fly balls. A real red flag, in my opinion, when you look at what he's doing. I have to agree here with what you're saying. With that being said, how far are we actually going to expect him to go? I mean, the Dodgers are also well aware of his inability to come through lately. So I think his leash is going to be short here. And then you're going to have to deal with Dustin May and then Julio Urias, which, I mean, mind you, every single one of these guys has just pitched, and guys that typically like to start. So, I mean, mind you, even with the combination of the 3, I have to agree. I think a clear-cut advantage with the starting pitching on the side, and I always mention it, good pitching beats good hitting, and I'm going to agree with you here on this first 5.
I think the 8-3 victory for the Dodgers will give us an even better price. And I think Dustin May is almost as vulnerable as Gonsolin, maybe not quite as much, but as vulnerable. And Urias, of the 3, is the only one that scares me. I mean, Urias, the way he closed out Game 7 was 39 pitches, retiring the last 9 Atlanta batters. He looks very strong. And if he was starting here, even if he was only throwing a couple innings, I might not make this move. But I think Gonsolin can get touched. That is my plan of attack here in Game 2 of the World Series. Rays first 5 for me. You've said that you're also on that. Is there any other additions that you're thinking of making?
Right now, not at the moment. I'm gonna have to dig in a little bit more, but still, the inability for these Tampa Bay Rays to produce a lot of runs is still a sign for me. If I still see that 4.5 hanging around, I don't have a total. I might still be hanging that. Might grab that 4.5. Albeit you're talking, I do see the advantage with the Rays, but I don't see the Rays putting up a whole lot of runs. And I expect Blake Snell to come in here and pitch extremely well. So I may be looking at a first 5 under 4.5, but right now I'm going to jump on those Rays at the plus money. I don't think you could continue to lay juice time and time again in the World Series with these two great ball clubs. And in this specific spot, I think this is the right spot to take Tampa Bay.
I don't think you'll get a 4.5. Pinnacle's opened up at 4. They're the only book that's come out. It's a minus 120 to the over. This is at 1:30 a.m. Eastern time. I don't think the 4.5 comes. I think the 4 is where it's going to end. The full game right now is sitting at 8. It's minus 115 to the over, between minus 113 and minus 115, depending on where you shop. And the Dodgers are between minus 147 and minus 155 favorites right now. When you were talking about backing the Rays at plus money, is that full game as well, or just the first 5?
I'm going to look just to take the first 5, try to isolate with Blake Snell. Blake Snell hasn't gone deep in very many of the games. And ultimately, I believe that in the bullpens is very evenly matched. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, maybe a slight advantage to Tampa Bay, but I've got a lot of confidence in the Dodger bullpen and in the Dodger bats. So ultimately, in a full game, that might come to fruition and might be able to come back. But as far as the first 5, I just think to isolate that advantage towards Blake Snell, especially, I mean, you haven't seen him go past 5 innings in any game.
And then a little look ahead. We're going to get the day off in between games 2 and 3. We're going to get Charlie Morton against Walker Buehler. Can you are you building a plan for how you're going to attack that game?
I mean, right away when I look at those two guys, I'm thinking first 5 under, big time. Charlie Morton is the type of guy that I think can cool these bats down. The type of righty that can do it. He can be crafty when he needs to, and a guy that's been in this position before that's not going to be big for him in any way. You've seen his poise last time out, and on the other side, Walker Buehler really seems to get going. He's getting going. Seems to have worked out those lingering blister issues, which I don't even want to get into all that crap. But, I mean, I think he's finally figured it out. And you saw, like I mentioned it on the last video, I mean, didn't have a 3-ball count not once in that whole time in a game 6 against Atlanta. I mean, he saw a 2-ball count once. I mean, the guy looked phenomenal, was able to get out of jams. He had great poise about him. So, I mean, I'm expecting a pitcher's duel in that game. That's for sure.
And by the way, for game 2, 81 Fahrenheit clear, the baseball websites have it at 10 miles per hour sideways in. Again, I went to the weather sites and they don't have it at 10 miles per hour. They have it going down. It reaches a peak about 2 hours before game time. They have it at like 7 down to 6 miles per hour in. And that's what I'm going to trust, although that may give you less confidence on an under, but that's what I'm going to trust. So I don't forget what daily baseball data, all that stuff saying 10 miles per hour. The weather sites say 7 miles per hour and 6 miles per hour in for game 2, 81 Fahrenheit. Globe Field. Nolly knows you are 3 wins away from your first World Series in 32 years. Man, that's exciting stuff. But you got 3 very tough wins to go. And I wish you luck, my friend. Thank you for joining us here. We will be back in action, breaking down each and every game of the World Series. Hit the subscribe and the like button. Also follow us on Twitter at odds110. Nolly, good luck, my friend. And best case scenario, Rays cash us first 5, and then the Dodgers can take care of business for you.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
this is a tough spot.
Yeah, tough spot. I mean, I hate to be doing it, but I gotta go where the numbers are indicating. You know what I mean? And like you said, 3 wins away, and exciting, nerve wracking, and don't want to look again. But hey, we're still here. You know, the door's left open, still knocking. And Dave Roberts said this is the year, and he might be right. But we'll see, man.
We will see. I'm going for my 6th straight here. Rays, first 5. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will be seeing you again for Game 3. Get paid.